Hello, I'm Luther Kruger with the Big Blue Sun Museum of Solar Cooking in Minneapolis. I'm here with Pat McArdle, who I can't hold a candle to her experience promoting, helping out solar cooking promotions and so forth around the world. And glad to be here on the campus of Cal Poly Tech. What are they? Is that
Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
That's a go, San Luis Obispo. Beautiful day, perfect for solar cooking. And we're told that we might have a demo of some stuff with a class by Pete Schwartz here later today, and that'll be kind of a tandem episode with this. But I always ask just 3 questions, and then you can riff on them all. The first one is, how did you discover solar energy of any kind, and then specifically solar cooking? What are you doing today? Any projects you're working on that you want to talk about? And where do you see the future of promoting solar cooking?
So I became involved as an adult with solar cooking while I was in Afghanistan. I was sent there as an American diplomat. I was assigned to a British group up in the north, and I went on patrol with them and reported back to the State Department. And what I saw all over northern Afghanistan, which is sunny about 9 months of the year, even when it's freezing cold, all these little kids hauling brush, almost no trees left, but hauling brush, and they were taking big piles of brush home to mom so she could cook dinner. And one day we were coming back to our camp, and another little group of kids crossed the road in front of us, and I suddenly remembered that when I was a Girl Scout, previous century, I had made a solar box cooker, a cardboard box and glass, and we melted s'mores. We melted marshmallows and chocolate. That was the extent of my knowledge about solar cookers. But I got back to camp thinking about these kids and the sun, and I went online and I found the Solar Cookers International website, wiki, and downloaded some plans and built 5 different solar cookers over the next 2 months, tested them on the roof of our mud-walled compound, and found that the cook it made the most sense because I could put it in my backpack with a pot, and when we go into villages, I could set it up and boil a pot of water. Now, we were not there, we were there for peacekeeping, not solar cooking promotion, but the reaction of the villagers, the men, because the women aren't allowed out in public, the reaction was really impressive. In the first village I went to, where I boiled a pot of water and they thought it was magic, and then the men asked me, they could see that I used cardboard, and then it had the shiny paper, aluminum foil. And they asked, where do we say, we have cardboard, but where do we get the shiny paper? Well, aluminum foil was not sold anywhere in northern Afghanistan at that time, in 2005. So I didn't know what to tell them. And then one guy reaches in his pocket, pulls out his cigarettes, because they all smoke, and the foil, and he said, we can use this. And they all pulled out their cigarettes, and they pulled up the foil, and they said, we can make our own. Well, we had to leave. I never went back to that village again because we covered a huge area. But I was so impressed by this instant technology transfer. That's what hooked me. Yeah. And when I got home in 2006, I was invited to a conference, the Solar Cookers International Conference in Granada, Spain, and then joined the board, and that's how I got started.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, big country. I mean,
yeah.
Great. Well, so how about right now? What's
your second question?
What are you doing right now? Anything in your sights for projects?
Yeah. Well, I have been. I write a lot, and I do pro bono consulting. I just do it for free now because I'm retired and I have my government pension, the old kind.
Sure.
So I don't feel I need to charge anybody. And right now, I'm working with Solar Household Energy and a group in D.C. called Solar Electric Light Fund, on a proposal that actually I was asked about 4 years ago, and I drafted this very detailed proposal for introducing solar cooking into a village that this Solar Electric Light Fund was going to electrify with solar panels, not small scale electrification. But the guy, Bob Freeling, who's the director, I've been bugging him for years to add solar cooking to his project. So he finally said, we have the funding, we're going to do it. So I wrote a very detailed proposal 4 years ago, and it involved introducing 4 different types of solar cookers. A panel cooker, parabolic cooker, a box cooker, and retained heat cooking. And then I added in the one that Pete Schwartz is working on, which is this one which is powered by 100-watt solar panel, and then use phase change salts.
Yep.
So I wrote it, and what I wanted to do in this proposal, because there was plenty of money, he had enough money to do it, was to hire 15 women and divide them into 3 teams of 5 each, and then give them 2 months to spend a couple weeks on each one and try out recipes. Try out their local recipes and make mistakes and see how it worked and let their families eat it. So instead of just going in for 2 days and saying this is how it works, goodbye, having a pretty long-term experiment for these women to try each of the 3 separately and learn how to use retained heat cooking. Use the integrated cooking method, which means solar when it's sunny and retain heat to keep the food hot, and use a fire when it's not sunny. And he accepted it, but then the pandemic hit.
Timing.
So now it's ramping up again, and we're doing some changes, and I hope it's going to go forward. So I'm helping them tweak my 4-year-old proposal, because a lot has changed since then.
Sure.
So that's what I'm doing right now.
Well, cool. So where do you see the future? In particular, my interest in the future is just hearing what should people be doing so people will actually adapt it here in the States, abroad, where it's desperate, where they've got waterborne diseases or deforestation, or where it's it's maybe a pastime here, but it's part of maybe a personal green bundle of practices people can do. Where do you see the future? What are the best practices that people should take?
Well, we'll look at 2 things: one in the U.S. and one in the developing world.
Yeah.
So in the U.S., I mean, we all have kitchens and electricity and everything. So most people are still going to cook in their kitchens.
Yeah.
I do feel that it's important, and I have been trying to get the Red Cross interested in this and others, that we have seen as natural disasters occur and as they increase in frequency, that there are times when we do not have power. Electricity, gas, things can be cut off by earthquakes, storms, floods, everything. And I think it's important for people, and the Mormons are really, really good at this, to be prepared to take care of yourself for a couple months if something happens. And that is a reason that I think everybody should have at least one solar cooker in their emergency preparedness kit. And I promote that in the community where I live. But a lot of people can't imagine being without the resources that we take for granted for an extended period of time, maybe a day, the power's out. They can't imagine that. But I think we have to be prepared. I think that is perhaps going to become more frequent, and we need to be prepared for it. So that's in the United States.
Sure.
I think promoting it as something, I think preppers already know.
Yeah.
The Mormons already know, because most Mormons have a solar cooker.
Yeah.
Their favorite is the sun oven right now, but they have a solar cooker. Campers are picking up that this is a really good thing to do.
Sure.
People going to the beach or whatever. So it is, it's growing in popularity, but not to the extent I would like it to, but that's okay. I mean, in my house, I have an induction stove. I have solar panels on my roof. I have an electric car in my garage. So I'm not quite off the grid, but I will be soon.
Sure.
And I think more and more people will be using solar PV, that's great.
Yes.
Solar PV is as good as solar thermal.
Yeah.
Overseas, I think that this project proposal that I wrote, if it takes place and if it's successful, I think that as those of us who are interested in promoting this technology overseas, need to go in for a longer period of time, need to give people time to try it. It's sort of like handing my mother a microwave 50 years ago and saying,
Trust me.
Trust me. Oh, well, no.
Yeah.
No, that was too weird.
Yeah.
And my experience introducing solar cooking overseas, and I'll give you one. I was sent, the U.S. Army asked me to go to Guyana for a civil defense exercise, and I was to show solar cooking and how it works. So I took cookits. This is like 9 years ago, I think. I took cookits with me, and I was working with university students in town, and I told them we were going to do a contest. We're going to take a traditional dish, and they had one called Cook Up. It's coconut, chicken, and vegetables. That's their traditional dish. So I divided into 3 teams. Each team did their own version, but they all had to use a cookit. And it's sunny all the time there. So they each cooked one using a cookit in the cookit pot, that speckled
Sure.
granite ware
The enameled,
pot.
yep.
Yeah. And then they also had to each build. I gave them 3 cardboard boxes and some newspaper. They had to make a retained heat container. So we went to the market. They bought the ingredients. I gave them the money, and they bought what they needed to make Cook Up. They chopped everything up, put it in the pot, set out the 3 solar cookers, and cooked it. And it was boiling. It was brilliant sunshine. It's on the equator. So the stuff was done in about an hour and a half because it was started boiling right away. And then they put it in the retained heat containers. And there were military personnel and journalists watching us do this. Well, we finally, after it was in the retained heat containers for an hour, we measured the temperature, and then the hottest one got a prize. But then we're going to serve the food. So we opened the pots, steaming, smelling wonderful, and started to dish up. No one wanted to taste it. Just like my mom 50 years ago,
Yep.
She wouldn't drink a cup of coffee with water heated in a microwave.
Oh, man.
No one would taste it. So I dished up a plate, and I ate it. It was delicious, and they all watched me to see if I burst into flame or collapse. And I didn't. I said, this is really good. And then they all started eating. It was all eaten up in a couple minutes. But we have to be aware of the fact that this technology is not normal.
Yeah.
It's a strange way of cooking, and we have to give people time to try it. We can't just go in, and we also cannot introduce and present solar cookers as a way to stop using firewood, because it will always be cloudy at some point. You have to have another way, and you have to understand how to use fire when it's cloudy, solar when it's sunny, and a retained heat container to keep the food hot or finish cooking.
Sure. Even in Albuquerque, 5 or 10 days of the year, they don't get sun.
That's right. Right. Not much in Albuquerque.
Almost
Phoenix.
a monopoly. Or
Yeah.
Phoenix,
Yeah.
or Sacramento, or San Luis Obispo. Yeah. Great. Any other thoughts for the good of the order, as they say?
Well, I hope that we can. I mean, I'm just committed to doing this, and I hope that it would be nice, given the growing number of billionaires in our country, if we could convince a couple of them to fund what we're trying to do.
Sure.
I don't know if that will ever happen, but never give up.
Yeah. I remember a story, I think it was back in high school, where the teacher was talking about foot binding in China and how it took a generation to change.
Yeah.
Just where enough families are saying, this is nuts, and so forth. And I think we're kind of, everyone talks about this inflection point.
Yeah.
I think we've been at one for several years. So I don't know if it's exactly a point. It's almost an inflection era where, resources are getting scarcer. We're recognizing the very deep downside of fossil fuel burning, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that there is kind of that magnitude order of escalation of interest in solar cooking. And so it's so good to hear. You've been involved for so long. You're a resource to other people too, right? I mean, people can contact you with questions.
Oh, I get questions all the time.
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer, point people towards resources or individuals. Yeah.
Sure. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.